Anyways, Hayom Yom goes as follows. In responding to l'chaim, we Jews, we say l'chaim because they're sanctifying the alcohol. So we say l'chaim. Why do we say l'chaim? That's the question of today's Hayom Yom. What does l'chaim mean? The Gentiles, they say cheers. I'm not sure what cheers really mean. Why do they say cheers? Cheers. Cheers means what? Like cheer? Like we're happy now? I guess so. Maybe that's what it means. If you could look up the reason for that, if anybody could post the real reason why they say cheers, it'd be interesting. I can tell you that in Spanish countries, they say salute. Salute, which is like a salute. Why do they salute? It's very interesting. Why do they salute? Because salute came from the knights of the round table, of King Arthur's round table, where the knights would travel around in full body armor, like full body armor. I can't imagine how they moved around in that metal stuff. I guess it was called chainmail, and they were able to move around. But the salute came from the knights when they were covered entirely, and they needed to recognize friend from foe. How did they identify friend from foe? They would lift up the visor, the eyes. When you look in someone's eyes, you can really see their soul. When you lifted up the visor, you could see their face partially, and you could identify who's who. So the salute that we do today is a remnant of lifting up the visor from full body armor to be able to identify somebody that you want to kill from somebody that you want to embrace. So it was basically an identification concept. Same thing goes for the clicking of the glasses. When you click glasses, why do we click glasses together? The reason was that many, many people would drink out of distrust in yesteryear. In the olden days, you did business with somebody. You were bringing the money, they were bringing the goods, and you were doing an exchange, and you drank over it. So each one of them was afraid that the other was trying to poison them. If the other one put poison in your drink, then they wouldn't have to pay you because they would just take the goods and keep the money because you'd be dead. So how do you know that they weren't trying to poison you? That nobody was trying to poison the other? They would click glasses and ensure that your drink went into my drink and my drink went into your drink, and then we would drink simultaneously. By drinking simultaneously, we were assured that whatever's in my cup is now in your cup, and whatever's in your cup is now also in my cup. And it was thus that they were able to reach a state of mutual trust amidst a context of great distrust. So the Gentiles, therefore, who click glasses and salute, is coming out of a place of great distrust. But why do we Jews say l'chaim? From a totally different perspective. Here it goes. When we say l'chaim tovim u'l'shalom. L'chaim tovim u'l'shalom, which means for good life and for peace. The reason for this blessing is that the first time drinking wine is mentioned in the Torah, there were undesirable results. It says Noach came out of the ark and he planted a vineyard and he drank from the vineyard. It says over there that his third son, Ham, basically he either sodomized him or he castrated him. It's a nasty story in the Torah. Good morning, Lisa. Good to have you with us here on the Torah study. So basically when Noah came out of the ark, there was some shady stuff going on between what his son did to him, because basically Shem felt that there were 3 sons of Noah and the entire world had to be divided by 3. And he was worried his father was going to have more kids and he'd have to deal with more competition to divide up the inheritance of the entire world. So he basically castrated his father so that he wouldn't have any more kids. A horrible story. And that's, by the way, why Noah cursed his son Ham. Long story. Anyways, it didn't go well the first time the drinking happened in the Torah. But bottom line, you get the picture, I hope. Also, the tree of knowledge, Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, the tree of knowledge was actually a grapevine. Did you know that? The tree of knowledge was a grapevine, and Adam and Eve were created on a Friday. They were prohibited from eating the fruits of the tree only for a few hours until Friday night, when they'd be allowed to drink the wine and to make Kiddush on Shabbos on the grapevine, on the fruit of the tree of knowledge. But they couldn't wait. It was forbidden fruit, which is the most desirable. They had to have it now. God, give me patience and give it to me now, right? So the first experiences in the Torah with wine were negative experiences. Therefore, when we drink today, we say l'chaim tovim u'l'shalom, for a good life and for peace. We extend the blessing that wine be for a good life, for a blessing, and not for something negative. That's the first reason that we say l'chaim tovim u'l'shalom when we drink wine. The second reason, the Maggid of Mezrich, the teacher, the Rebbe of the Alter Rebbe, used to respond a little differently. He said l'chaim v'livracha, to life and for blessing. L'chaim v'livracha, for life and for blessing. Once that the Farbrengen, the Alter Rebbe responded, L'chaim v'livracha. After the Farbrengen Hasidim were surprised, they discussed this expression, which they had heard then for the first time. One Chassid proposed, since the Talmud tells us, quote, when wine enters, the secret comes out. When wine enters, the secret comes out, which in divine service signifies that the emotions are revealed. You know, when you drink, you let yourself out. You let your guard down. Who you really are starts coming out. When you drink wine, you want to get to know someone, drink with them and see the kind of words. If they start saying four-letter words and shouting and screaming and being nasty, you know they're nasty people. But when they drink wine and they start speaking words of love, and they start to cry, they start to laugh, you know that they're good people. You find out a person when they let their guards down when they drink, right? So since in divine service, wine entering, the secret comes out, refers to the emotions being revealed, we need a blessing for this, that the expression, that this expression is l'chaim v'livracha. Livracha should be read leivraka. So l'chaim v'livracha can mean for life and for blessing, or you can read it for life and for a soft heart. Livracha can read leivraka, which means a soft heart, a sensitive heart. So we bless each other that when you drink, it should be for life, and for a sensitive heart, we hope that the emotions that come out, whatever's coming out now, should be something beautiful, not, God forbid, something negative. The Tzemach Tzedek commented, such an interpretation could be proposed only by a chassid who has davened and labored in divine service for 30 years. That's pretty profound stuff, guys. Okay, I see a comment from Marty. Why is it always represented as an apple tree? Why is it always represented as an apple tree if the tree of knowledge of Adam and Eve was actually a grapevine? Well, the question is, Marty, where are you getting your information from? So, for example, if you go to the Moses statue, I think it's in Florence, in the museum in Florence, and what's it called again? I forget what that museum is called. But if you go to the Florence Museum to see Moses, you'll see Moses with horns on his head. Why does Moses have horns on his head? Because Michelangelo read the words of the Torah, which read that Moses' face was radiant after he was on Mount Sinai. His face was radiant. The word radiant also can be misread as horns. So Michelangelo decided that there was horns on Moses' head. And ever since then, the anti-Semites of the world are looking for the horns on the Jewish people's head. So you're talking about a bad translation. That's why, because it's coming from a bad translation. I don't think that there's a single opinion that says that it was an apple tree. There's different opinions in the Talmud. One says that it was an etrog tree. Another one says that it was a wheat, like a bread tree, before the earth was cursed as a result of the sin of the tree of knowledge. Bread just grew out of the ground. So it was wheat, it was a bread tree. Another opinion says that it was figs, and they used the fig leaves to cover their nakedness. But there is not an opinion in the Talmud, I believe, that says it was an apple tree. Maybe this Adam's apple might have been the origin for that. But I don't think that there's any normal explanation in the Torah as to why it was an apple tree. So there you have it. You always got to make sure you get your information from the right place. I remember somebody called in once to the radio show, Sunday Shmooze radio show, very upset. He was like this litigation attorney from Long Island. He was very upset about something. And eventually I was able to neutralize him when I finally realized where he was getting his information from. He was reading a King James translation of the Bible, King James Version, which is obviously a Christian translation. I said to him, listen, whatever Bible you're using is just not the right translation, So most, the Christians believe that their God died for our sins and that he was somehow a human sacrifice because they're misinterpreting the verse in Leviticus, which is talking about animal sacrifices. They read it as talking about a human sacrifice, which is totally out of context. It's totally an incorrect reading of the Torah. But because they translated it that way, that became their truth. So what are you going to do? That's why it's nice and important to learn Hebrew, so you know the original and you can't have anybody playing with you with any interpretation. And that's why when I teach, I love to quote the origin, the source. And I love to give you the actual verse so that you can see I'm not making this up. I'm giving it to you straight from the source. Okay. Another comment. Many paintings in the Met show an apple tree. Again, if you're getting your information, a lot of people get their information from Hollywood. Their whole Bible education they get from Charlton Heston or from Prince of Egypt or something. So that's definitely not where you want to be getting your information from. Like I always say, consider the source. Consider the source. I've decided to detox from all coronavirus WhatsApp social media messaging, because everybody's sending me a message that says, I heard from a friend who heard from a friend who really heard from someone who really knows that this is what's going to happen and this is how many people are going to die from coronavirus. And I'm like, you know what? I'm so not interested in that kind of information anymore. Consider the source. If it's coming from a reliable source, I'm good. If it's not coming from a reliable source, I'm not interested. And the big question today is, what's even a reliable source? You know, everybody's looking for sensationalistic videos of announcements. This doctor found a cure and that doctor found a cure. You know what? Consider the source. It's very important to make sure you're getting the right information. Anyways, Lisa, Robin Weiss, is it okay to pre-schedule Alexa to turn on and off for you music, lights, including reminder to light candles at the correct time? Very creative solution you got there, Lisa. Love it. So if you can, I didn't know that you could pre-schedule Alexa. That's kind of cool, actually, to pre-schedule Alexa. But I want to tell you even further. You know that with the driverless vehicles that are coming out of Uber now, Uber is starting to introduce driverless cars. Why do you need to pay a taxi driver if you can have a car that's fully automated? Imagine if you could get into a car that you pre-schedule before Shabbos to pick you up 9 o'clock in the morning, bring you to shul Shabbos morning, and pick you up at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock and take you back home, where you have no door to open, no lights to turn on. The car pulls up. It's got your name somewhere on a screen somewhere. It says, hi, Lisa and Sam. We're taking you home to this address. Just get in the car. You don't have to close the door. That would be amazing, right? I want you to know that looks like it's something which probably will be permissible. But turning on lights on and off is definitely not a problem. To use something called a time switch. You don't need Alexa to turn your lights on. It's been invented about 50 years ago, the time switch. That's not a problem. But turning on music again is an issue. Like at the shul here, we've got a problem with a microphone. When we do events in Shabbos, some of the speakers can't project their voice. And it's a problem because people want us to put on a microphone and put it on before Shabbos. You can't use a microphone before Shabbos because you're speaking into the microphone and you're actually generating electric impulses on Shabbos. So that's definitely not allowed, even if the microphone was turned on before Shabbos. The question is, can you play music on Shabbos? There are some opinions that say, you know, maybe not so terrible. Certainly not our approach, because we're not looking to bring music in on Shabbos. Why would you need to bring music on Shabbos? Go a cappella. Shabbos is a spiritual experience, is a holy experience. Why would you want to bring in, you know, all week long, we're addicted to our cell phones. We're addicted to social media. We're addicted to external stimuli. One day a week, we have this opportunity to look inwards, to draw our energy from within instead of from outside of us. Why would you want to take that one day, that sanctuary, and allow external influences inside of that sanctuary as well? It's kind of like you walking into shul and the rabbi getting up and giving a sermon about the Democratic debate or about the election. All week long, we hear about this garbage, this politics all the time. Why would I want to hear about that in my sanctuary, in my synagogue? I come here for a soul experience. I'm not looking to find ways to bring politics into my shul as well. We try to keep it a sanctuary. So Shabbos is your sanctuary. Keep it holy. I want to encourage you to do that. Marty's question, why is it different than a personal limo driver? How is that different to a driverless vehicle? Very simple. Because if a non-Jew, look, certainly if it's a Jewish driver, you're not allowed to do it. You're allowed to have under extraneous circumstances, you're allowed to have a non-Jew do to violate the Shabbos for you, but you can't have a Jew violate the Shabbos for you. So there's a good story about this young couple. They're having a baby, and the baby's scheduled for Shabbos, and they're religious. You know, it's the first time having a baby. They're all nervous, you know. So they, it's a religious community. So before Shabbos, on Shabbos, he picks up the phone. He's religious. His wife's in labor. He calls up the taxi. And he asks the taxi company, please send me a non-Jewish driver. Because it's Shabbos. You know, he doesn't want a Jewish driver to drive him to the hospital. Please send me a non-Jewish driver. The non-Jewish taxi driver arrives. And as he gets into the taxi driver, he hears a voice crackling over the radio. Did you pick up those anti-Semites yet? Because you don't want a Jew to violate the Shabbos for you. If you absolutely need to, in an emergency, you should ask a non-Jew who's not obligated to keep Shabbos to violate the Shabbos for you, for example, to drive you to a hospital or something. Even then, you're not allowed to explicitly ask a non-Jew to do labor for you. It's considered like you did the labor. The only way you can ask a non-Jew to do labor for you on Shabbos is if you do it in a way that it's not asking him to do anything. For example, if you want the lights turned on in your house, you can ask a non-Jew to come into your house, and then you say to him, it's really dark in here. And if he gets the hint and he's like, oh, well, do you want me to turn on the lights? And you're like, if he gets the hint and he turns on the lights, good. But you can't say to him, I want you to turn on the lights, because I can't. You're not allowed to do that, because that's considered like he did it for you. So that's the reason, Marty, why a driverless vehicle would technically be very, very different to having a personal limo driver who's doing the work for you. Hope that answers your question. I'm moving forward, folks, in the study of Talmud. A few minutes of study of Talmud here. We are in this book in Yaakov. If you just joined us, Torah study here. We are studying the book of Talmud. If you've never studied Talmud before, we welcome you. And I'd like to welcome Marilyn. Shalom, Marilyn Honigfeld, Susan's sister. Great to have you with us, Marilyn, studying Talmud with us. It's a pleasure. I'm delighted to have you here with us. And folks, keep the comments coming. Good morning, Sophie. Shalom. Nice to see you. Stay safe. Hope everybody's staying safe, far away from people, and keeping yourself, quarantined. We've got to get through this and make sure everybody comes out safe. Got to keep Palm Beach and Florida safe. Keep this corona here out of here. So good to see everybody, at least on virtual and not in person for the time being. Okay, so we're studying Talmud, and we're starting a new little section over here in the Talmud. If you do have the book, we're on page 74. This book is the book of Yaakov. It's a collection of the stories of the Talmud without the legal component of the Talmud. And the Talmud goes on as follows. It continues the conversation that we've been having in the past few days, which is about the notion, the principle that God does whatever he commands us to do. Anything that God commands us to do, he's got skin in the game as well. If he asks us to lay tefillin, then that means that he lays tefillin as well. And just as in our tefillin, the passages in the 4 compartments of the head tefillin are written together in the one and only compartment of the hand tefillin, so too in God's tefillin, all of those passages mentioned above, those separated in the head tefillin, are written together in the one and only compartment of his arm tefillin. Let me explain what that means. Basically, we wear 2 pairs of tefillin. One is on the arm and one is on the head. They're 2 separate mitzvahs, 2 black boxes which have miniature Torah scrolls inside of them. The arm tefillin has 1 compartment with a Torah scroll inside. The head tefillin has 4 separate compartments with little Torah scrolls inside. In our tefillin, there's 1 scroll on the arm and 4 scrolls on the head. We spoke about yesterday how God's tefillin has verses which speak of the praise of the Jewish people, because you and I are the apple of God's eye, right? So what it says over here is that basically, just like our tefillin has the same verses in the head tefillin or in the arm tefillin, so too with God, that's all. Anyways, we continue into a new topic. Another teaching of Ravin Baravada in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak. Very apropos to the quarantine that's going on right now, because this forum that you're in right now is Torah study, which we normally do in the morning after our daily davening, which takes place at 7:30 in the morning. But obviously right now during quarantine, we can't come together as one. We can't daven together. So listen to what the Talmud says right now. Ravin Barav Ada said in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, if someone usually comes to the synagogue and does not come one day, you don't show up one day, the Holy One, blessed be he, inquires about him to know why he did not come to the synagogue. If you didn't show up one day, know that God is asking about you. What happened to you? Who, as it's stated in Isaiah, who is there amongst you who fears God, who listens to the voice of his servant, but now went in darkness and does not have light? If you don't show up one day, if there's a radio silence from you, God is like, hey, what happened to Joe Schmo? God actually asks about you, and that's an incredibly beautiful thought to think that. Some people think, who would even notice if I don't show up to shul? The Talmud is telling you, if you don't show up in shul, God Almighty himself inquires about you. The verse speaks about a person who fears God and comes to the synagogue daily and listens to the voice of God's servant, the Chazan, who leads the prayer, but now went in darkness, leaving on a journey before dawn without going to the synagogue. If he went on the journey for a mitzvah matter, he does have light. It's not considered that he went in darkness. A mitzvah is called a lamp in Torah. If you're occupied with the mitzvah, then you're not in darkness. But if he went for the sake of a non-mitzvah matter, if you're skipping shul because of a non-mitzvah matter, then as the verse continues, he does not have light. That is, he will not succeed in his effort to seek his livelihood. So if you go to shul on a regular basis and you missed one day, you're now going in darkness. It says, but now went in darkness and does not have light. It means you're not going to be successful in business. It's not a good idea to cut shul in order to spend more time in the office or to make more money, because if you do that, if you cut shul to make more money, the Talmud is telling us, quoting from Isaiah, it's not going to be a blessed day. It reminds me of that very beautiful poem. Let me see if I can look it up. That very, very beautiful poem, which is about prayer. Let me see if I can find it. Really, really nice. Oops. A really nice poem here. Here it is. This is I think a manifestation of this Isaiah verse. I got up early one morning and rushed right into the day. I had so much to accomplish, I didn't have time to pray. Problems just tumbled about me, and heavier came each task. Why doesn't God help me, I wondered. He answered, you didn't ask. I wanted to see joy and beauty, but the day toiled on, gray and bleak. I wondered why God didn't show me. He said, because you didn't seek. I tried to come into God's presence. I used all my keys at the lock. God gently and lovingly chided, my child, you didn't knock. I woke up early this morning and paused before entering the day. I had so much to accomplish that I had to take time to pray. And that's a very beautiful poem about our actions being blessed when you do go to shul, when you do daven. So know that if you don't show up to shul one day and you're irregular, then you're setting yourself up for a problem. So don't miss it. The verse continues. Let him trust in the name of God. That is, what is the reason that he didn't have light? Because he should have trusted in the name of God that he would provide for him. And he did not trust in him by seeking his livelihood instead of praying in the synagogue. So basically, this is connected very closely to what we're studying, the gates of trust, the Jewish approach to conquering fear and anxiety. Because it says like this, why didn't he come to shul? Because why are you going in darkness? Because you're worried that you have to work harder in order to make more money. No, that's the problem. You're trusting in the money. You're trusting in the business. You're trusting in the other guy. Don't trust in the business. Let him trust in the name of God. The reason you don't have light is because you're not trusting in the name of God. If you did trust in him by seeking your livelihood from God if you did trust in God, then you would have found your livelihood through the blessing of God. By trusting in God, that would have brought you the divine providence. By turning your back on God and not showing up in shul, that show that you trust in money. If you trust in money, then God says, okay, let's see how you manage on your own. Another teaching on this topic, Rabbi Yochanan said, when the Holy One, blessed be he, comes to synagogue and he does not find the minyan of 10 people there, he immediately becomes angry, since this shows that the community is not devoted to prayer and its members consider other matters more important. As it says in the verse, Hashem asks, why have I come and there is no man? Why have I called and there is no one who answers? That is, Hashem complains that there are not enough people present to form a minyan to answer the call of the chazan. Now, we live in extraordinary times today when there is very, very, very few minyans around the world. There are some Jews that are defiant and insist on making a minyan, even though it's dangerous. I do not begin to fathom the logic behind what they're doing. I do not understand why their religious zeal and fervor overrides their passion to save human lives. We live in extraordinary times today where you can literally save a life by doing nothing. I don't know when else this has happened in the history of the world, that you could be saving lives, the greatest mitzvah of all, by simply doing nothing and staying home. Yet there are some people that feel that they have to keep the minyan going. They have to come to shul. They've got to gather together in some sort of minyans that they arrange, sort of under the radar. They're kind of illegal, and they make these minyans in order to be expressive of their religious zeal, yet they're obviously endangering humanity by doing that, because by spreading the virus, you could really be hurting people's lives. In any event, we live in times when there are many minions that are shut down. And I'm sure that instead of God being angry that we don't have a minion, that God is inspired by the beauty of the people of Israel, that we have put human life before anything else. What does a parent care about? Being respected by his children, or seeing that his children respect each other? What would you prefer as a parent? To see your children respecting you, or to see your children respecting each other? Obviously, any parent who's sane and healthy would far prefer the children to respect each other than to respect him. And when God sees that we've shut down our minions today in order to be able to give each other life, the gift of life, to curb the spread of the virus, then I think that God is inspired by the love that we're exhibiting to humanity. And I want to tell you this, that the quarantine in Torah is as a result of the sin of Lashon Hara, of speaking badly about other people. In biblical times, when you spoke slander, Lashon Hara, gossip about other people, you would go into a state of quarantine. Why? Because here you were separating between a person and his friends by speaking badly about that person. Therefore, you yourself went into quarantine. So the biblical quarantine was an opportunity to meditate upon how you can love other people unconditionally, how you can atone for your sin of causing strife amongst people, and bringing peace amongst humanity. And that's what we're trying to do here as well, to bring people together. And by staying home, by shutting down our minions, we are certainly exhibiting an unconditional love for all of humankind, no matter their race, religion, color, nationality, or creed. We are curbing the spread of this virus and exhibiting an extraordinary love for all of humanity in fulfillment of what the Torah tells us to do in quarantine. May it be that just like our temple was destroyed through the sin of hating each other unconditionally, for baseless hatred and for unfounded, irrational hatred of other human beings, that's why the temple was destroyed. So too it says the temple will be rebuilt in the merit of irrational love for each other, unconditional and baseless love for each other. May it be God's will that you should see the way we love each other, the way we care for each other, by being so careful to literally shut down our economy, to shut down our lives, so that people will be safe. Random people that we never met should be safe. May God deem us worthy of the rebuilding of our temple immediately today, and the coming of the Mashiach, bringing the world to a state of peace and harmony, without any suffering, without any illness, without any loneliness, without any poverty, an era where there will just be the knowledge of God filling the earth like the water fills the sea, where we'll be able to live in an era of abundance and plenty and wisdom and culture and heritage in the most beautiful way.